Jai Gurudev. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Chaiva Tato Jayamudirayet. Jai Gurudev. Yeah, we can share our, we'll do Manana of the chapter 13.
Hari Om. I feel that with every shloka, we are able to decide our own roadmap so effortlessly. Like when Bhagwan has said, I am that Purush who is Maya Atit, but we all are enveloped by Maya. So our first effort will be to get rid of that. And in praying, when we are praying to that Prakriti, our effort should be to make us free from the shackles, to reach that ultimate what we are, Kshetrajna.
And also the Jnayam, the means of knowledge. Jnanam is what, Jnanam, Jnayam is what Bhagwan had mentioned. All those attributes, Amanitvam, Madambitvam, Mahimsa, Arjavam, Satyam, all those are our sadhana tools. That is where we have to, that is the polishing that we need to in order to make that pond very still, so that the reflection of the moon is seen and unwavering. Right now we have all these modifications thanks to the three gunas and our own sets of ragas and dveshas, our vasanas that we have carried forward from the previous janmas. So all that is like, they're all those shackles that we have bound us to, and the identification that we are jiva, that we are limitless. I mean, we are limited. Kinchignaha, alpagnaha, and I'm Najnani, I'm a Dukhi. So in order to remove those, we have these as beautiful means of knowledge. And the example of the crystal and the blue cloth. So the whole thing, whole attempt is to identify that you are nothing but that colorless crystal. All this so-called superimposition on us is that we are all of this, of the attributes of the jiva, is just that we are the whole of Maya is superimposing all of this.
He used one word, vritti something. Listen to these vakyas, Brahma vakyas, so that your, your thought process or something like similar.
Says,
What is
Shastra, the vritti pravaha will slowly the vritti pravaha. That is what even Swamiji said yesterday's our chapter 12. He said the vritti will give you that thing of sukha, whereas we give you the experience of sukha. So this continuous vritti pravaha, the reason why we need to go to Shastras, go to Vedanta, is to get this vritti pravaha, this continuous stream of thought, the thought process that you are nothing but Brahma, you are nothing but Anadi, Ananta, Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam. So when this continuously happens, then you realize you're that crystal. You're not just the as though the blue crystal.
Yeah. So vritti pravaha is thought process or something deeper than that?
The thought process, yes. That is all. I think it is
Okay,
more to
thanks.
do with not just the thought. The thought is important, but you go beyond that and contemplate upon it. Then when that nididhyasana happens and you're in that, it's there in the back of your mind all the time, then it is like
It
that
is like a tail jar.
uninterrupted flow. Yeah, uninterrupted flow of oil. So just to clarify, I had missed a few parts. I got a call. The Nana mentioned Kapila Maharshi's Sankhya Shastra. In that, he said he talks of Prakriti and Purusha, but they do not have the concept of Ishvara. But that Purusha is different from the Purusha that Bhagwan is talking about here. Correct? I think that part I had missed a bit.
Yeah, they don't believe in Ishvara, which is abiding in Purusha.
Mhm. Yeah, well, at this point, I think we just stick to what Bhagwan is talking about. We're not going into Sankhya Shastra, but for our understanding, the Purusha is the is actually the Kshetrajna, is Brahma, but enveloped with Maya, enveloped by ignorance, and therefore he is he's the experiencer. He gets attached to the three qualities. We started from 16th, right? Avibhaktam cha bhuteshu vibhaktamiva chastitam bhuta bhartrit cha tatnyayam grasishnu prabhavishnu cha tatnyayam cha. And that is to be known, avibhaktam cha, and undivided, bhuteshu, in the beings and elements, vibhaktam ivacha, and seemingly divided, sthitam, remaining, bhuta bhartr, the sustainer of the beings, grasishnu, the devourer, prabhavishnu cha, the creator. And that is to be known as the one who remains undivided in the beings and who is seemingly divided, who is the sustainer of the beings and elements, and who is the devourer and the creator. Jyotishamapi tajyotihi tamasah paramujyate jnanam jneyam jnanagamyam hridi sarvasya vishtitam. So that Brahma, that jneyam Brahma, the light of lights, is said to be beyond ignorance. It is knowledge. It is that which has to be known. It is that which is arrived at by knowledge, and it is present in the minds of all. Because Maya, this ignorance is nothing but Maya, the sum total of ignorance is Maya. So, Brahmashraya Maya, and from Maya come all the Trigunas and the Panchamahabhutas and the whole creation. Iti kshetram tatha jnanam jneyam choktam samasatah madbhakta etad vijnaya madbhavayopapadyate. So thus the kshetra tatha, so to jnanam means of gaining knowledge, jneyam cha, what is to be known, uktam has been told, samasataha in brief, mad bhaktaha, the one who is devoted to me, etat vijnaya, knowing this clearly, mad bhavaya upapadyate, is fit to gain the condition of being me. Thus the kshetra, so too, the means of gaining knowledge and what is to be known has been told in brief. The one who is devoted to me, knowing this clearly, is fit to gain the condition of being me. Here, jnanam is given the meaning of means of knowledge, right? Whereas I thought jnanam. I'm not sure that there's a difference in that. Jnana
I
is
think
not.
is it means of knowing?
Yeah, means of knowledge and means of gaining knowledge. And that is what he gave all those things, amanitva, madambitva, mahimsa, all that was mentioned as jnanam. So I have a question as whether this jnana is different from jnanam. When we talk of satyam, jnanam, anantam, the jnanam there is conscious, is knowledge, absolute knowledge. So, but here it is given the meaning of means of gaining knowledge. Thus, the kshetra, so too, the means of gaining knowledge and what is to be known has been told in brief. The one who is devoted to me, knowing this clearly, is fit to gain the condition of being me. Prakritim purusham chaiva vidyanadi ubhavapi vikaramscha gunamschaiva vidhi prakriti sambhavan. So, may you know that both Prakriti and Purusha are indeed beginningless. And may you know that the modifications and indeed the qualities are born of Prakriti. Karya Karana Kartritve Hetu Prakriti Ruchyate Purusha Sukha Dukkhanam Bhoktritve Hetu Ruchyate. So Prakriti is said to be the cause in the creation of the physical body and the instruments. Purusha is said to be the cause with reference to the state of being the experiencer of pleasure and pain. Purusha prakritistohi bhukte prakritichan gunan karanam gunasangosya sadasadyo nijanmasu. He, because Purusha prakritistaha, the Purusha or enjoyer or jiva, obtains in Prakriti, Prakriti Jan Gunan, the attributes born of Prakriti, Bhukte enjoys, Asya Guna Sangaha, his attachment to the attributes, Sada Sat Yoni Janmasu, for births in higher and lower wombs. Karanam is the cause. Because Purusha, enjoyer, Jiva, obtains in Prakriti, he enjoys the attributes born of Prakriti. His attachment to the attributes is the cause for births in higher and lower wombs. So the one, the Ajnani, who, like all of us, who is bound by this Ajnana and bound by Prakriti, continues to have this uh, Janana Marana because of his attachment to the attributes. But it is only through knowledge again that he realizes what he is. Upadrashtanumanta cha bharta bhokta maheshwarah paramatmeti chavyukto dehesmin purushah paraha. Upadrashta, ultimate seer, Anumanta, permitter, cha bharta, sustainer, bhokta, enjoyer, Maheshwara, limitless Lord, Paramatma cha uktaha iti, and called limitless self, Dehe asmin api, in this body also, Purushaha, the person, Paraha, limitless. So the ultimate seer, permitter, sustainer, enjoyer, limitless Lord, creator, and also called limitless self, is the person who is limitless in this body. Anyone wants to share?
I missed that creator part. What what is it used in what sense it is being used as a creator?
I had also missed that little part. You're talking of the 22nd verse, right?
Now, just now you read few sentences. In that, the creator word has been used. Just wanted to know.
Yeah,
In
that
what?
was the limitless Lord. That is the creator.
Limitless Lord. He is a creator. Okay.
Because it is from him that Maya is born and that Prakriti, and from there everything else is. Can you all see the text?
Yeah, we can see.
So, yeah, we coming to this Vritti Pravaha again, Rinal. There are situations that can produce a particular vritti because of which there can be sukha. But dukkha is purely born of aviveka. Provisionally, we can accept it as a property of the mind, manodharma, but it does not belong to Atma. It is like that crystal and the blue cloth. All the anathma vastu that we consider to be as we identify ourselves to be, including our pain, misery, all the experiences we go through, all that is like the blue cloth. So it does not actually belong to the crystal. It is as though superimposed. But then with the Shastra Vakyas, with Vedanta Vakyas, when you have that Vritti Pravaha, then that will establish you in your true nature, which is that crystal, that beautiful colorless crystal that you are. Because remember in the beginning, Swamiji had mentioned that it is only through Shabda. Shabda is the pramana. We require a pramana to rediscover ourselves, and that is the Shabda, the Vedas, Vedanta. That is the pramana. So this vritti is an offshoot of that. All these contemplative verses that we are learning, all those are the vrittis. Tattvamasi, Aham Brahmasmi, and Najayate, Mriyate, Va Kadachit. That is why Bhagavad Gita is called as the Nididhyasana Shastra. Right? I think of the three, for Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, I think for Shravana it was the Upanishads, Manana Brahma Sutras, and Bhagavad Gita is Nididhyasana. Right? Correct me if I'm wrong. That is what Nana had mentioned some time back.
Yes.
Correct? So what we're doing is actually the Nididhyasana Shastra. So does the Lord give some kind of beatitude? So just going back, summarizing the previous few paragraphs. So Ishvara Anugraha is not to remove dukkha. That is what we always keep thinking. Oh, the grace has removed my difficulty. No. Ishvaranugraha is only to create a situation for jnana to happen. And it is that jnana that removes the dukkha. It is not, when you are in jnana, when you have realized, then automatically there is no dukkha.
But
So that's
yesterday I couldn't share, ran out of time. How do you then explain miracles? Like I was in a TRM, all teachers were there, and then one teacher got up and said that during childbirth her tailbone had moved, and then most of the orthopedic surgeons could not relieve her of her pain. Whatever they had to do, they did, but she could not sit on the ground anymore. And being a Gujarati, they normally even cook on the ground level, like. So she got up and she talked about this at the beginning of the TRM itself. And Guruji, with finality in his voice, said, "Okay, close your eyes, take a deep breath in, take another breath in, now sit down." And then she sat down on the ground, which she said that I want to sit at your feet and I can't do that. So, like, she was relieved of that ailment that she had. Then a second teacher got up who had suffered some partial paralysis and she couldn't roll her eyeballs. Same thing he did with that person also, and she got relieved. And during the Silver Jubilee, I had picked up all the bags to put in the bus, and loaded and unloaded a lot of bags. And so I had got that L3, L4 disc collapse, and also developed hernia. So I was wearing two belts when I went for the TRM. And I said, I am not going to ask you anything, thy will be done. Like mentally, I communicated with him. And after that, I didn't wear those two belts. I was relieved of my pain. So I don't know, like when we talk that the grace of the master is only for getting knowledge, to disassociate yourself from pain and suffering. Yesterday, somebody shared about another teacher also. But here, this was clearly what happened in the TRM. How it's contrary to what is written here. Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev, I think the grace will flow only if you have some deposits in your account, punya account. Only then the grace will work. Otherwise, I don't think it works. And somewhere even Guruji has mentioned it.
What I'm saying is what is written here, that the grace works only for you to get jnana.
Okay.
There, I saw them being relieved, and everybody saw it, all the teachers saw it.
Yeah, maybe we'll just park that thing for now. We just have to, maybe, because here what Swamiji says, so to say that the grace of Ishvara destroys dukkha is also without foundation. Ishvara Anugraha is meant for jnana. That is what is established here.
This miracles I have also seen in front of my eyes. Of course, when we take, we make ourselves available for the bigger responsibilities, then these pains and our personal, so many things are taken care by God. In that, these healing things and everything comes, I feel so. Because after the Silver Jubilee, when we went to Rishikesh, Gurudev was there, and literally three men lifted one lady and brought her in front of Gurudev. She was so much in pain that she couldn't touch her leg to the ground. And they made her sit on the, just they put that, how we gunny bag, we put it in the corner, like that they put her body in the somewhere on the higher this thing. And Gurudev said ki, okay, now try to touch your feet, both the feet on the ground, and now slowly get up, and now start walking towards me. And this, in front of my eyes, I have seen how that the whole miracle has happened. Miracles happen definitely with Guru's grace, but of course it comes when we make ourselves available for the bigger cause, and then our own all these aspects are taken care by the Almighty, I feel.
I think what we even need to understand here is that, I don't know, maybe, see, miracles happen, yes. Miracles are miracles because you cannot explain, they are beyond logic, no? But the Ishvara Anugraha, basically for mumukshus, we're talking of mumukshus here, is meant to create a situation for wherein jnana happens. Our idea as mumukshus is not just to remove our dukkha, right? It is not just removing things that are causing misery. For all these people for whom miracles happened, that old lady that you were talking about, I think she was happy that her pain was relieved. That's it. But going one step beyond, Ishvaranugraha is meant for jnana.
Maybe it has made the life easier for her to walk the path of jnana.
Yeah, could be also. Because then, see, miracles, one thing for certain, miracles, what they cement is the amount of shraddha. Faith actually becomes so solid when someone experiences miracles. So that hooks them on. So maybe even in that way, subtly that space and the situation is created for jnana to happen, because your shraddha starts becoming where your shraddha becomes solid. So it is not just to remove dukkha. That's what I understand it as. Seemingly, it is like dukkha is out because that there is that jnana. But I don't know whether with Adi Shankaracharya, were there any miracles that happened like that?
Yes, that Amla gooseberry
Amla, yes,
rain
that
had
was that.
happened.
That's what coming to my mind. But what exactly was
Yeah,
that?
I think making the
that was
path
he was.
easier for the jnani. I mean, for you to walk that path, or for making your shraddha stronger. So it is taking you towards that.
Mm. What was that story of the Amla and Adi Shankaracharya?
Yeah, when once Adi Shankaracharya had gone for Bhiksha, and he had a rule that only from one whichever home randomly he thinks there he goes, and whatever is given by that owner of that home, it will be enough for the whole day. So once when he went to that very very poor lady, and she had nothing to offer him as Bhiksha. She barely had even the clothes to come out. So he was driven by compassion, and because of her looking at her poverty, and then she prayed to Ma Lakshmi that if my whatever I have done, she had just one gooseberry in her home, in her hut. So he requested so many times that whatever you have, even if it is one grain, you please come and offer me. So she came, and she just with her hand outside, she offered that gooseberry. And then he had prayed, and then Ma Lakshmi had rained that gold gooseberry in front of her home.
That is when he composes the Kanakadhara
Kanakdhara.
Stotra. Yeah.
Kanakdhara, yes, yes, yes.
Yes, Kanakadhara
I would like
Stotra.
to add a small thing to this. When this lady gave Adi Shankara that one gooseberry, old pickle it was, Adi Shankara was moved by her poverty, and she prays to Mahalakshmi to bless her with wealth. And that time Mahalakshmi said she has done a lot of adharma. So she is not in a position to receive any grace. Like that, that credit bank, she doesn't have that. So Adi Shankara says, I am praying to you. So have compassion on me and shower this lady with your grace. So an enlightened master's compassion can bring us grace in our life. So that is how when Adi Shankara praises Mother Lakshmi, that beautiful Kanakadhara Stotra, like Mahalakshmi could not refuse the request of this enlightened master. And out of compassion, she gives this rain of golden gooseberries. And Adi Shankara just walks away.
Yeah.
That's a little bit I wanted to add.
Yeah, because during Tulsi Vivaha and all, we use the gooseberries as ornaments to Tulsi, and a form of Devi only. And it is said that when you eat, if you're fasting, and if you have gooseberry in your mouth and keep chewing it throughout the day, it will suppress your hunger, and it will pacify your Jatragni. That's why maybe gooseberry was given to him, because that was the only thing for him. I mean, I could just relate that. And the Amla is very auspicious, it says. like Lakshmi. That's how it is worshipped in many of our pujas.
Now let's move on. Does the Lord give some kind of beatitude? Another concept is that the jiva knows only a small amount of intermittent sukha. But due to the grace of Ishvara, he gathers infinite bliss, Brahmananda. Brahmananda is not handed out by Ishvara. It is gained already because the Swarupa of Atma is Brahman. Moreover, if it is something that you are given, you will also lose it. Accepting that Brahmananda is myself, perhaps because of the grace of Ishvara, which I gather through my prayers, I am able to stay with myself. This is also nonsense. When does anything ever get away from its Swarupa? What anugraha is necessary for ice to be cold or fire to be hot? Or what kind of effort is required to make the fire hot? Swarupa being what it always remains without requiring anybody's grace, including Ishvara's. The idea that Ishvara's grace is necessary to abide in oneself is pure imagination due to not understanding what Shastra says. Even before knowledge, you are Brahmananda. That is why Shruti does not say you will become Brahman. It says you are Brahman. I'm reading this paragraph one more time. So, accepting that Brahmananda is myself, perhaps because of the grace of Ishvara, which I gather through my prayers, I am able to stay with myself. This is also nonsense. When does anything ever get away from its Swarupa? What anugraha is required for ice to be cold, fire to be hot? Or what kind of effort is required to make the fire hot? Swarupa being what it always remains without requiring anybody's grace, including Ishvara's. The idea that Ishvara's grace is necessary to abide in oneself is pure imagination due to not understanding what Shastra says. Even before knowledge, you are Brahmananda. That is why Shruti does not say you will become Brahman. It says you are Brahman. So grace, Ishvara's grace only aids us. It does not make us realize. It only creates the situation. Moksha is through knowledge alone. Shastra addresses the one who does not know he is Brahman. When the teacher says you are Brahman, does he see the person as Brahman or not Brahman? A Brahma. If he is a Brahma, how can he tell him he is Brahman? Then it becomes Brahma, delusion, not Brahma, knowledge. Only if Atma is Brahman can he say, you are Brahman. That is Jnana, and therefore grace, Anugraha, is only in gaining Jnana, not Moksha. Even before knowledge, he was Brahman, which was why it could be said, you are Brahman. Then again, what is the Swarupa cannot be lost. The truth of Atma happens to be Brahman. It is always Brahman. When we say he remains in his Swarupa, there is no one going somewhere and remaining there. Atma is Brahman. Nor was Atma originally Ananda, then changed into something else, and now has to get back to itself. Atma is avikriya. It does not undergo any change. Atma is Nityananda. How can it be eternal and be something else that you have to acquire? If one understands Ananda as something that has to be acquired, there is a problem in understanding the nature of Atma and of moksha. Should I move on, or do you want me to read this para again?
Yeah, please read, Brahmaraji.
So, Shastra addresses moksha is through knowledge alone. Shastra addresses the one who does not know he is Brahman. When the teacher says you are Brahman, does he see the person as Brahman or not Brahman? A Brahma. If he is a Brahma, how can he tell him he is Brahman? Then it becomes Brahma, delusion, not Brahma, knowledge. Only if Atma is Brahman can he say, you are Brahman. That is Jnana, and therefore grace or Anugraha is only in gaining Jnana, not Moksha. Because Moksha is already there. Only thing we need do is remove this Ajnana. And for getting to do that, we require grace. Even before knowledge, he was Brahman, which was why it could be said, you are Brahman. Then again, what is the Swarupa cannot be lost. The truth of Atma happens to be Brahman. It is always Brahman. When we say he remains in his Swarupa, there is no one going somewhere and remaining there. Atma is Brahman. Nor was Atma originally Ananda, then changed into something else, and now has to get back to itself. Atma is avikriya. It does not undergo any change. Atma is Nityananda. How can it be eternal and be something else that you have to acquire? If one understands Ananda as something that has to be acquired, there is a problem in understanding the nature of Atma and of Moksha. This example of the crystal and the cloth is coming back in again. See, here, if we understand that the cloth is part of the Ajnana, and the crystal, of course, is moksha, is Atma, Brahman. You are Brahman, the teacher is telling you. So, Ishvara's grace, Anugraha is required only in removing that blue cloth. Removing that ignorance, that dawn of knowledge. So then what remains is just you, is Brahman. So it is not like a crystal is created or crystal was something else. Crystal is crystal throughout. It is only the blue cloth that is making the crystal appear as if it is blue. Ishvara's grace is required. Ishvara's grace is manifest even when you are seeking to know the identity between the Jiva and Ishvara. To merely accept the possibility of non-duality requires Ishvara's grace. Ishvara anugrahat eva pumsam advaita vasana. How beautiful. Even to discern that non-duality is the solution to the problem of samsara, and to get the right person to help you out requires grace, because this ocean of samsara is vast. The grace of Ishvara can provide a situation necessary for jnana. It cannot be a cause for moksha, because moksha is not created. The cause of samsara is ignorance of reality, like the cause of the serpent is the ignorance of the rope. By knowing the rope, the perception of the serpent and all the attendant fear goes. Similarly, by knowing the truth of Atma, Anatma Buddhi, and the Samsaritva based upon that goes. Those whose discrimination is robbed away superimpose Atma upon Anatma and Anatma upon Atma. Once some Viveka arises, they begin to lead a life of Karma Yoga. This is not an ordinary thing and is achieved only because of their bhakti. As the Karma Phala Data, Ishvara rewards them for this. By his grace, they get the right association, Sangha, and the teaching necessary to enhance their Viveka. With that Atma Anatma Viveka, the superimposition is removed and thereby the Jiva gains knowledge of his Swarupa. In this way, it looks as though Bhagavan gives them moksha. In fact, they earn all the conditions for moksha by invoking Ishvara's grace. There is no ultimate rescuer. You take responsibility for your life and the results will follow. Seeking Ishvara's grace is part of taking charge of your life. If you are not well, you go to a doctor. And if you are not able to go to a doctor, you can get somebody to take you. That is intelligent living. Ishvaranugraha does not come in some peculiar form. It is the result of your own efforts. That is what Bhagavan means when he says, I am the rescuer. Tesham aham samuddharta. Through giving knowledge. This is an important thing to understand. To be released from the ocean of samsara, fraught with death, what do we have to do? This is so beautiful. Ishvara, I'm just going back to this thing. Ishvara anugrahat eva pumsam advaita vasana. I think it's worth remembering and feeling grateful for that. It is only because of the grace of the Lord that even the thinking, that thought of Advaita, thought of non-duality comes because of Ishvara's grace. Ishvara anugrahat eva pumsam advaita vasana. So to merely accept the possibility of non-duality requires Ishvara's grace. So this whole these few paras that were given are so in sync with how our group has formed. I'm actually feeling so grateful. So the grace of Ishvara can provide a situation necessary for jnana. And even to discern that non-duality is the solution to the problem of samsara and to get the right person to help you out requires grace, because this ocean of samsara is vast. The very fact that we all have, are connected to Gurudev is itself an indication that, it could be Gurudev, there could be somebody else has another guru. The fact that you have a guru itself is a fact that there is Ishvara Anugraha that is there. So the grace of Ishvara can provide a situation necessary for jnana. It cannot be a cause for moksha because moksha is not created. The cause of samsara is the ignorance of reality, like the cause of the serpent is the ignorance of the rope. By knowing the rope, the perception of the serpent and all the attendant fears goes. Similarly, by knowing the truth of Atma, Anatma Buddhi, and the Samsaritva based upon that goes. Therefore, once some Viveka comes, they start living the life of a Karma Yoga. That is also not an ordinary thing. And it is achieved only because of their bhakti. And as the Karma Phaladata, Ishvara rewards them for this. By his grace, they get the right association, sangha, and the teaching necessary to enhance their viveka. Maybe you can just relate 1 second. I have a So Ishvara rewards them for this. By his grace, they get the right association and the teaching necessary to enhance their viveka. With that Atma Anatma Viveka, the superimposition is removed and thereby the Jiva gains knowledge of his Swarupa. In this way, it looks as though Bhagavan gives them moksha. In fact, they earn all the conditions for moksha by invoking Ishvara's grace. So this is the free will that we as human beings are endowed with. In the very beginning, in the Gita introduction, Swamiji spoke of a person emotionally maturing. We all grow. That physical growth is inevitable. It's part of Prakriti. But the emotional growing, emotional maturing is using the free will to to realize your full potential. So there is no ultimate rescuer. You take responsibility for your life and the results will follow. So that self-effort is so important, is required, that free will and use of the free will correctly. Seeking Ishvara's grace is part of taking charge of your life. If you are not well, you go to a doctor. And if you are not able to go to a doctor, you can get somebody to take you. That is intelligent living. Ishvara Anugraha does not come in some peculiar form. It is the result of your own efforts. That is what Bhagavan means when he says, I am their rescuer. Tesham aham samuddharta. That is why the proverb, no? God helps only those who help themselves. And I think I remember reading or Gurudev mentioning this in some knowledge that was given. He says, God helps only those who help themselves. So you take that one step you take is so important, and he will come and lead the way, take you. That is an important thing to understand. To be released from the ocean of samsara fraught with death, what do we have to do? Mayeva mana adhatsva, mayi buddhim niveshaya, nivasishyasi mayeva ata udhvam na samshaya. So mayi, in me, eva, alone, manaha, the mind, adhatsva, may you place, mayi, into me, buddhim, the intellect, niveshaya, may you enter. Ataha udhvam, thereafter, mayi eva, in me alone, nivasishyami, nivasishyasi, you will abide. Na samshayaha, there is no doubt. In me alone may you place the mind. Into me may you make the intellect enter. Thereafter, there is no doubt that you will abide in me alone. Commit your buddhi and mind to me. Mai eva, in me alone. This me, Shankara says, is Ishvara as the cosmic form, Vishwarupa. May you commit your mind to me. Mayeva mana adhatsva. Both manaha and buddhi mean the antahkarana. So, when they are used together, as they are here, each has a restricted meaning. Though both are antahkarana vrittis, there is a difference based on the process of thinking involved. Manaha is fluctuating between certainty and uncertainty. Sankalpa vikalpa atmakam. Buddhi is a function that leads to a well ascertained conclusion. Nischayatmika. Both must be in me, Bhagavan says. Why should he mention each separately? When the mind is placed in Ishvara, is the buddhi also not necessarily placed there? That may not be so at all. One may not have the commitment that arises from a well assimilated understanding of what one wants. Purushartha Nishchaya. What is Ishvara? Why am I doing this? What is the phala that I am seeking? The ascertainment of all this is involved in the Nishchayatmika Buddhi. Then, when you place your mind in Ishvara, it will stay there. Otherwise, when there is vagueness about the very pursuit and the nature of Ishvara, other interests are equally compelling and naturally the mind will stray. But if you have determined what you really want, your pursuit is directed and meaningful. That is why the value Tattva Jnanartha Darshana is pointed out in the next chapter. Constant study of Vedanta Shastra, Adhyatma Jnana Nityatva is also a value mentioned there, but that alone is not enough. As a value, it can be very vague, and therefore, he says the study should be done keeping in view that the purpose is knowing the truth of oneself. Tattva Jnanartha Darshana. This is Purushartha Nishchaya. What I'm really seeking in life is moksha, which is the result of Tattva Jnana, knowledge of the truth. These two things have to be connected. It must be clear that what you want is freedom. And if you only understand that you want to be free, that alone is not adequate. In the search for freedom from pain, people resort to all kinds of things. What they do has nothing to do with what they really want, because the nature of moksha and the means for it is not very clear. Therefore, Bhagavan says Tattva Jnanartha Darshana. For this, it must be clear that moksha is the nature of Atma, which is not separate from Ishvara Swarupa, the very Ishvara that appears in the form of this world. It cannot be a vague notion of a God who is located somewhere administering reward and punishment. This kind of Ishvara is replaced by Ishvara as Saguna Brahma. Therefore, may you commit both your mind and buddhi to Ishvara. This is one meaning. This goes on. So should we stop here? Or should I take a few more minutes and complete this? I will read forward. A few more paras are there. So it's the reason why Swamiji has mentioned both buddhi and mana and manas is because one is fluctuating. The mind is a fluctuating thing. Sankalpa vikalpatmakam manaha and nischayatmika buddhi. The buddhi is the one that determines and ascertains, and it the deciding factor. So unless you have so why should he say mention both mind and buddhi separately? When the mind is placed in Ishvara, is the buddhi also not necessarily placed there? That may not be so at all. One may not have the commitment that arises from a well assimilated understanding of what one wants. Purushartha Nishchaya. What is Ishvara? Why am I doing this? What is the phala that I am seeking? This, they say, ascertainment of all this is involved in the Nishchayatka Buddhi. Then, when you place your mind in Ishvara, it will stay there. Otherwise, when there is vagueness about the very pursuit and the nature of Ishvara, other interests are equally compelling and naturally the mind will stray. So here, I'm just reminded of the Vyavasayatmika Buddhi. So that one-pointedness, that single-pointedness is so important. Otherwise, if it's only vague, if it's only in the level of the mind, your mind is there, but the buddhi is not established in Ishvara, then there will be wavering and there will be other interests that take away your, the mind will get strayed. But if you have determined what you really want, your pursuit is directed and meaningful. That is why the value Tattva Jnanartha Darshana is pointed out in the next chapter. In chapter 13 is what we've seen. Constant study of Vedanta Shastra, Adhyatma Jnana Nityatva is also a value mentioned there, but that alone is not enough. As a value, it can be very vague, and therefore, he says the study should be done keeping in view that the purpose is knowing the truth of oneself. Tattva Jnanartha Darshana. This is the Purushartha Nishchaya. What I'm really seeking in life is moksha, which is the result of Tattva Jnana, knowledge of the truth. These two things have to be connected. It must be clear that what you want is freedom. And if you only understand that you want to be free, that alone is not adequate. There are some statements that Swamiji gives which are a little confusing. I'm not sure why, And if you only understand that you want to be free, that alone is not adequate. In the search for freedom from pain, people resort to all kinds of things. So it is not enough if you just want to be free, because in order to be free, you might resort to so many things, X, Y, Z. But what they do has nothing to do with what they really want, because the nature of moksha and the means for it is not very clear. Now it's clear, understood. Therefore, Bhagavan says Tattva Jnanartha Darshana. For this, it must be clear that moksha is the nature of Atma, which is not separate from Ishvara Swarupa, the very Ishvara that appears in the form of this world. It cannot be a vague notion of a God who's located somewhere administering reward and punishment. This kind of Ishvara is replaced by Ishvara as Saguna Brahma. Therefore, may you commit both your mind and buddhi to Ishvara. This is one meaning. Or we can say, having chosen me, let your mind dwell upon me and your buddhi enter into me. Making the buddhi enter into Ishvara is done only through inquiry, vichara, and the inquiry must be proper. If you keep on asking, who am I? What answer will you get? Only what you already know about the person who is asking. The more you ask, the more apparent is your confusion. Atma is not going to reveal itself because it is already evident in the questioner. It is not for want of questioning that the essential nature of Atma is not revealed. The most that can happen through this kind of inquiry is an absorption, laya, of ahankara, as in deep sleep or a moment of joy. That is purely a condition, not knowledge. You emerge from it knowing nothing more about yourself. The maximum you can get when you ask the question, who am I, is laya. How can there be jnana? If somebody coughs, the ahankara returns and the samadhi ends because the ahankara continues to exist in a subtle form. If, however, there is total absence of identity with the ahankara because you know differently, there cannot be any coming back. In spite of the presence of the ahankara, there is no real ahankara because the self, Atma, is free from ahankara. Though ahankara is not free from the self, then no problem is posed by the ahankara. That is jnana. How do you get it? This is so good. So by constant questioning, who am I, the only state you get to is a kind of laya, where it is like the state of deep sleep, where your ahankara as those get subdued. But then the moment there is some disturbance in the environment or someone coughs, like what Swamiji says, the ahankara comes back and that you're out of that laya. So that is a temporary state. This is what happens when all of us get into meditation. That is why we are not established in that state. But whereas when ahankara when there is total absence of identity with the ahankara, because you know differently, then there cannot be any coming back. This is the state all enlightened beings are in. So in spite of the presence of ahankara, there is no real ahankara because the self is free from ahankara. That is jnana. That is that tadhama nanivartate. Once you reach there, there's no question of returning. Atma cannot be any more evident than it is now, and it is not opposed to ignorance of yourself either. Atma will not protest. As light is not opposed to what you read, similarly, Atma Chaitanya is not opposed to what you think. If you think I am a monkey, it will illumine that thought as well as any other. If ignorance is there, consciousness is there. If ignorance is not there, consciousness will still be there. Only a vritti that occurs in the buddhi, revealing the nature of Atma, is opposed to self-ignorance. Atma Chaitanya, consciousness, which is the nature of Atma, is not opposed to ignorance. Therefore, simply asking who am I will not work here. You need an appropriate means of knowledge, a pramana. Here the problem is a non-recognized and therefore mistaken Atma. To correct the mistake, you require jnana of Atma, and to gain the jnana of Atma, you require a pramana. Perception and inference can reveal only anatma, not Atma as we have seen. Therefore, you seek the answer to the question, who am I, not within yourself, but in the Shastra, which is the Pramana. When you study Shastra, you commit yourself to Parameshwara. Mai buddhim niveshaya means, may you inquire into Parameshwara. This is nothing but Vedanta Vichara, which reduces to an inquiry into sentences like Tattvamasi. The idea is to set your mind upon Saguna Brahma and live a life of Karma Yoga and commit your buddhi to Vichara of Ishvara. Then there is nothing that can stop you from knowing me. Thereafter, you shall live or abide in me alone. Ataha mai eva nivasishyasi. Does the jiva, the devotee, live in Ishvara like an amoeba in the stomach? If that is so, he will still be separate. Therefore, Shankara says, you shall enter into me in the form of myself. There is no longer an Ishvara's Atma and Jiva's Atma. Only one limitless self as the Jiva resolves its notion about itself. That is entry into Ishvara. This is the result of meditation supported by inquiry and a life of karma yoga. Thereafter, there is no doubt. Ataha urdhvam na samshayaha. That you will enter into me thereafter can be after this knowledge or after death. There will no longer be any doubt because there is no jiva, only Ishvara. Even after death, one is not born again. Na punaravartate. We can put it in another way. While living, if you are with me, then who dies? Unless Ishvara dies, you cannot die because you are Ishvara. Ishvara is Nitya, so there is no possibility of death for you. Once the subject matter has been taught, it is very clear what you should do. So clear that there is no reason for doubt. Still, it is necessary to say na samshayaha because Arjuna asked the question here. That means he has doubts. Therefore, Bhagavan says, if you live like this, you shall enter into me. There is no doubt about that. Arjuna wanted to know who are better in the sense of being nearer to moksha, those who pursue Nirguna Brahma or those who follow a life of karma yoga with meditation upon Saguna Brahma. Krishna answered that these karma yogis meditating upon Parameshwara as the Vishwarupa are nearer to the God. They are yoga vittamas. He did not want to talk about those who pursue Nirguna Brahma because they are not available for comparison. They are jnanis, for they have all the requisite qualifications which are gathered only by karma yoga. Addressing the karma yogis, he said, let your mind be set upon me. Let the buddhi have a commitment backed by understanding, nishchaya, about me. In this way, if you contemplate upon Parameshwara, you will have the right antakarana and thereby you will remain one with me. Meaning, you will discover the oneness that exists between you and Ishvara. A devotee is a karma yogi for the sake of the antakarana shuddhi required to gain knowledge. He wants to quicken the process of meditation upon Ishvara, but he is not able to do so. Then the Lord said, you can get your mind into the object of meditation if you follow the steps below. Yeah, I think we'll stop here. We've had an extended session today. Sorry if I got it to someone else's time, but just wanted to run through the whole thing. So it is important not just to keep the mind, also the buddhi, so that we have that nischayatmika buddhi, vyavasayatmika buddhi. Yeah. Anyone wants to share anything before we close? Oh,
It's just wow.
yeah.
Very beautiful knowledge.
Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Om shanti shanti shanti. Sarvam Shri Krishnarpanamastu. Jai Gurudev.
Dhanyavad, Brahmaraj.